The Red Wings are in town, and the Blue Jackets simply cannot let what happened the last time these two teams faced off happen again. We're going to discuss how not to blow a 2-goal lead on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also want to thank you for making us the number one podcast network. The number one sports podcast network, I should say. Anyway, what we're talking about today is the Detroit Red Wings are in town. And we all know what happened the last time the Red Wings were in town. Or, technically the Blue Jackets were in Detroit. But, how many times have we heard it, right? 2-goal lead going into the third, blow it, go into overtime, lose. Simply can't happen again, right? Blue Jackets got a big win against the Devils on Monday night. There were some fireworks. I suspect that there will be fewer fireworks in this game. Although, as we know, Zach Werenski loves to fight Dylan Larkin, which I do think is very, very funny. So maybe fireworks. I don't know. Sounds like the Blue Jackets are getting some reinforcements in terms of injury. With the full disclosure that I am recording this basically as morning skate starts, so presumably something will happen to disregard something I say in here anytime in the next 14 minutes. So let's talk about the Red Wings first, and then we'll talk about the reinforcements for the Blue Jackets. The Red Wings are kind of hovering around about where the Blue Jackets are. They've got more wins than the Blue Jackets. I believe they're sitting 1 point above them in the standings, but they're 14-11-2 to the Blue Jackets 12-9-5. So the Blue Jackets, getting those loser points to keep them into the standings race. Again, East, super stupid, super weird this season. I believe 5 or 6 points separate the top of the Metro from the bottom of the Metro. So the Blue Jackets are sitting at the bottom of the Metro right now. They are 7 points away from being first in the Metro. There is, between the top of the East and the bottom of the East, there is 11 points difference. Sure, fine, normal, right? Especially when you compare it to the West, where there is 22 points difference. Now, partially that's because the Avalanche are insane, but there is a lot more parity in the West than the East. We know this. We don't have to get into this. The point I'm making here is the Red Wings were the second seed in the Atlantic a couple of days ago. They are now completely out of a playoff spot. Blue Jackets are 2 points away from being in a playoff spot, probably 3 points away from being in a playoff spot because of games in hand, etc. But they've got to jump. If they win tonight in regulation, they'll jump the Bruins, the Rangers, and the Red Wings, and probably the Islanders as well. So if they win in regulation tonight, which we're going to knock on wood, they will jump 4 teams and be right back into that wild card race. That's how weird the East continues to be. But the Red Wings specifically, they are 4-4-2 in their last 4 games. They just got done with their own 4-game losing streak. They beat Boston in their most recent game. But before that, their last win was actually that overtime win against the Blue Jackets. So, it's not been super plain sailing for the Red Wings either. They lost to Boston, Tampa Bay, Nashville, and New Jersey in that stretch as well. So not like a complete run of powerhouse games, right? They played some good teams in there. The Lightning have somehow snuck all the way to the top of the Atlantic after, a really rough first month of the season. So, Boston hanging around, but, losing, throwing points away to teams like Nashville, which, the Blue Jackets have also done this. I'm not going to sit here and say that they haven't. the Red Wings probably should be in a better position than they are right now. Goaltending is really kind of their issue at the minute and continues to be. Cam Talbot has an 888 save percentage. John Gibson has an 868 save percentage, which I think is really interesting considering how many Blue Jackets fans wanted Gibson in the offseason. Now Elvis Merzlikins has struggled in recent games. He's got an 895 on the season. Was good against the Devils. I suspect we'll see Jet tonight, who has cooled off since his hot start, but he's got a 901 save percentage. Is probably due a good game. He wasn't great against Pittsburgh. He was good against Toronto. Wasn't great against Detroit. But again, if the team is so determined to just not do anything in the third period, I do kind of feel bad for the goalies because then it looks like it's all their fault, and it just kind of isn't. But Jack Reeves hanging in there. I expect we'll see him tonight. But the Blue Jackets on the whole have better goaltending than the Red Wings, despite the fact that the Red Wings picked up the goalie that the Blue Jackets apparently should have picked up in the offseason, which I think is interesting. I was never a huge Gibson fan. I think he looked good on a bad Ducks team, right? But I don't know that he's going to be the answer in Detroit, which is interesting. Now, the Blue Jackets are continuing to slowly improve their special teams. They had kind of a wobble against the Devils. They went 1 for 3 on the power play, but 2 for 5 on the penalty kill, or 3 for 5 on the penalty kill, I guess, technically. So special teams, kind of a struggle. The Red Wings are solidly in the top third of the league with the power play, bottom third of the league with the penalty kill. Could be a chance for the Blue Jackets to figure out their power play. I personally think, especially after the shenanigans, let's say, in the Devils game, if we could have just no crime in this game, I would enjoy that. I will take less crime. I think it will be very easy to do less crime than they did in the Devils game. But I'm going to go ahead and ask for no crime and be optimistic about it. I don't think that there will be no crime. I think probably someone will do at least one crime, but no reason to tempt fate, right? The power play is improving, but how long can that continue? And frankly, I don't think they should give the penalty kill any more chances than necessary to be what it is. The Blue Jackets allow fewer goals than the Red Wings, but also score fewer goals. The Red Wings score 2.9 goals a game. The Blue Jackets score 2.8. So basically negligible, right? Similarly, the Red Wings allow 3.4 goals a game. The Blue Jackets allow 3.2 goals a game. So probably this is going to be a 3-2 game in some direction. Just haven't decided which direction yet. And we'll get into predictions as we get further down the line here. In terms of Red Wings to watch, Dylan Larkin's having a great year. He's got 30 points in 27 games. Lucas Raymond, 29 points in 25 games. Alex DeBrincat, 28 points in 27 games. Patrick Kane returned from injury now, 16 points in 18 games. On the back end, they're really only getting any kind of offense from Mo Seider, who plays a bajillion minutes tonight, less than Werenski, but still a lot of minutes. He's got 19 points in 27 games. So, the usual suspects for the Red Wings. Dylan Larkin's got 6 points in his last 5 games. Alex DeBrincat's got 3 goals in his last 5 games. Alex DeBrincat, of course, with the overtime winner when the Blue Jackets were in Detroit last month. So should be an interesting game. The good news is Blue Jackets are getting some guys back, it sounds like. So we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump right into that moment. They've got live spreads, money lines, adjusting instantly. They've got player props that update as guys are actively heating up or cooling down, and you can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. Basically, whatever you want to bet on, FanDuel has that for you, keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I just checked the Twitter of Jacket Insider, who knows what's going on basically all the time. And there's going to be some lineup changes in tonight's game. Sounds like Luca Pinelli is headed back to Cleveland, which I don't know if I agree with that. But I do think he performed very well in his first NHL action. Probably the Monsters could use him a little bit more than the Blue Jackets could right now, especially if it sounds like they're getting Marchenko and Boone Jenner back. Now, I personally, and we'll talk about the Monahan situation in a second here, with Boone Jenner being back, I would be like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to potentially sit Sean Monahan. I do not think that they are equivalent centers, but Boone Jenner can at least win a face-off, which frankly is most of what Monahan is doing right now. No disrespect to him, but he hasn't been particularly offensive. I know he had 2 goals against the Devils, but he got caved in his minutes. So he hasn't really created a lot of offense or prevented a lot of offense for the other team. I think Boone Jenner is right now anyway. Boone Jenner, you could put him in the lineup. Put him at like 3C. Again, I would I would put Charlie Coyle up on that second line center position with, I don't know, Johnson and Sillinger, and then have a third line of like Jenner, Wood, and probably Lundestrom or Del Bobalouz, who's still up. If Olivier is still out, and then put Lundestrom back on that fourth line with probably Gorns and Chinikov. Sorry, my voice is giving up on me 12 minutes into the episode. I do apologize. I am still sick. I'm doing my best out here. Anyway, the point I'm making here is Pinelli back to the Monsters, which is probably great news for the Monsters, although I don't know how much it helps them in tonight's game. But if Marchenko and Jenner are back, then Marchenko especially being back is great news for the Blue Jackets. He's their leading scorer for forwards. He has missed 4 games so far this season, and he's a point-a-game player in 22 games so far. Plays a lot, plays on the power play, has been really, really great for Adam Fantilli, who's on a little bit of a cold streak at the minute. I think actually doesn't have a point since Marchenko left the lineup, which is funny, and I don't think the two are necessarily related, because I think Fantilli had a great game against Toronto specifically, and I thought he was good against Pittsburgh as well. So, just unlucky not to get points in those situations. But I do think that if Marchenko is back in tonight, then probably Adam Fantilli is going to get a little bit more jump. And I know I see the argument that Fantilli should be able to produce basically whoever, regardless of who he's with. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I do also think that you should put your players in a position to succeed. And if putting Marchenko and Fantilli together leads both players to succeed, then great, right? So Marchenko being back is great news. They can put that top line back together. Probably bad news for Kent Johnson, who I assume will get banished to the bottom of the lineup, especially with Jenner back. I don't know what the plan is there. They might do something insane and do like a Jenner, Monahan, Sillinger second line, which I don't think is anything. Sounds like Olivier is going to be out for a while longer. I don't believe Erica Branson is close either. I think that's it for all of the injured players. I'm going to just double check Twitter real quick to see if there's anything else from Jeff. Nope. All he says is Marchenko and Boone Jenner on the ice for Blue Jackets morning skate ahead of tonight's game at Nationwide versus Detroit. Nothing about Monahan, who obviously left the game late on Monday, but sounds like we're going to get both Marchenko and Jenner back, or at least one of them. I believe someone saw, I believe, Portsline confirmed on the radio this morning that Marchenko is going to be back in the lineup, which is great news. I know when they practiced yesterday, he basically said, yeah, I'm 100% now. He took a bad hit in Toronto, I think. Or he took a bad hit in one of the games before he got injured, and I think he played through it for a minute, and then actually it seized up on him. But apparently he's 100% pain free right now, which is again great news. Jenner, I think, is a little bit more of a question mark, but good news for him to be on the ice for morning skate. There are no line rushes that I can see as of right now, but this gives the Blue Jackets something a little bit closer to their regular lineup, which is good news, right? Blue Jackets didn't have Marchenko in the Detroit game. Whether that would have been a deciding factor in terms of them scoring one or two more goals, I don't know. But like I said, having Marchenko back is great news. I don't think having Jenner back moves the needle as much, but it gives the Blue Jackets someone to play on the penalty kill. It gives them someone for face-offs. And frankly, it gives them a little bit more forechecking, which seems to be what Dean Everson wanted the team to do this season. Regardless of how effective a strategy it is, Jenner is a pretty good forechecker. So there's that. My worry is that Jenner's going to come straight back into a top six role, which I think this season has proved. Like, he seems to have very suddenly lost a step in terms of like his skating, etc. He's just not fast enough to keep up in the top six. He's going to be a great third line player whenever the team realizes that he actually is a third line player, right? But overall, like I said, pretty good news. Blue Jackets are starting to get healthy, which probably means that someone else is going to get injured shortly. I'm going to knock on wood to try and prevent that. But let's talk predictions. Because earlier I said that it looked like a 3-2 game. I think I stand by that, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, my energy, my mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I have been drinking Drip Drop like it's going out of fashion recently. If you can't tell, I think I mentioned it earlier in the episode. Actually, I am sick right now. And so Drip Drop has been great for getting me the hydration that I need to keep myself at least semi-functional, right? It's kind of, I'm going to have one right after I finish recording, actually. It helps me feel sharper, calmer, and just better overall. And right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're just going to finish off real quick with some predictions. Every day is, you know, the drill. Anytime goal scorer for the Blue Jackets and the final score prediction with a winner and a loser. You get a point for each of those. If you get both of them right, you get a point. If you also predict the score correctly and whether it's an overtime or a shootout win or loss, you get a bonus point as well. So potentially 4 points up for grabs here. I am on kind of a cold streak at the minute. I predicted a Werenski goal a couple of games ago, and that's been it for the past few games. But somehow I'm still near the top of the standings in the competition. I believe it is me and Luke Risco at the top with 11 points each. And then beyond that, I would have to look at my standings, which I don't have in front of me. So if you've got Locked On Blue Jackets host Jay Foster doesn't have a tab open that he wants, then stamp that off on your bingo card. Predictions. I'm going to stick with that 3-2 game. I'm going to be bold and say it's in regulation, even though history suggests it's going to be an overtime game, right? I think it's going to be a 3-2 win for the Blue Jackets. Get your comments down below in YouTube, or there's going to be a tweet going up very, very shortly, if it's not already up, that you can put your predictions as well. A 3-2 win for the Blue Jackets in regulation. And I think I'm going to go with a Marchenko. If he's in the lineup, a Marchenko goal is where I'm going. If he's not in the lineup, I think I'm going to go with a Werenski goal. It's Detroit. Werenski's obviously from there. I feel like he always has a little bit of jump in his step when he's playing the Red Wings, and also has quietly decided to lead this team in scoring. I talked yesterday about how he might be the first Blue Jacket to hit double-digit goals. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, a Zach Werenski goal. If Marchenko's not in the lineup, and this is not me hemming and hawing, if Marchenko's in the lineup, that's my pick. If Marchenko is not in the lineup, my backup pick, my pinch hitter, so to speak, is Werenski. Final answer. Like I said, get your predictions down below or get them into the YouTube comments, the tweet. We're at LO_Blue Jackets over on Twitter. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO-Blue Jackets over on Blue Sky as well. Thank you for listening to this episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. Tomorrow, we'll be back. We'll break down tonight's game, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know the drill. Thank you for listening to this episode once again. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.